folks. I got Matthew Rivera from the Inspection Boys. Is that right?
Inspection Boys.
The Inspection Boys. All right, man. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about home inspections and, what is a home inspection, what you guys do, and how could we possibly work better together as a pest control industry with the inspection industry to obviously give the client better results, but also, generate more revenue for everybody.
I love it.
So welcome to the podcast, brother. Let's talk about you, man. Give me your background. How the heck did you get involved in home inspections?
So I come from the power company industry. I was a lineman, and I actually just was looking for something to do on the side. I loved real estate, and it kind of went hand in hand, doing home inspections, building stuff, and being involved in the real estate industry. I got my license, and next thing you know, we were doing more work, doing home inspections, and I enjoyed it more than actually doing the power lines.
Right. Wow. And because power line guys make pretty good.
It was a big move. We did really well.
Yeah, because it's not hard to give that up to do home inspections unless
Yeah, it was very strategic. It was hard at first. I gave up a really good, high-paying job with benefits and retirement. But now I could say it was worth it.
Right. And how long have you been doing the home inspections now?
So I've been doing the home inspections for about 9 years.
9 years. Got it. All right, cool, man. So, and we'll just talk about that because you also have, you franchise your system.
Yeah. So we franchised it in 2017.
Right.
Since then, we're up to about 27 locations sold and about 14 open.
Got it. And what states are you covering?
Florida, New York. Those are our two biggest. Then we're South Carolina and Kansas City.
Got it. Just for the homeowner and the people that are doing pest control and home inspections, a lot of them do both. Are the laws, because you work so many different markets, are the laws in those markets different? Are they significantly different? What do you find is the big difference, like between New York and Florida?
They're totally different.
Yeah.
So in New York, technically to be a pest control inspector, there's no real laws or licenses. There's different people that say different things.
Right.
In Florida, it's totally a licensed thing. You can't say anything without being a pest control contractor. So in New York, we offer a lot of the training to our people, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. As in Florida, we have to send all of our guys to school, and they have to get a separate license. And basically, they have to work. Our company is working under a pest control company to even do the inspection.
Got it. All right. Yeah. So it is. I know Florida is one of those that is really, as far as getting licensed for pest control, because it's so strict for us, just for the guys listening, that I can't even hire a CSR without having her go through pest control training as a regular technician. 40 hours, state ID. She can't talk unless she's registered with the state, the Department of Agriculture, to discuss pest control. So she can just either answer the phones and say, hold on, let me get you to somebody. But if she's going to talk to them about anything about pest control, she's got to be registered and trained.
Yeah, we got in trouble for that when we first opened up down there, because we didn't know that, and we thought, an inspection's an inspection and treating it's different. So
yeah, you can't talk about it, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to teach people and help them, is that you shouldn't be really getting into the pest control part of discussing like this. We just had a scenario this last week. A lady calls me, funny story. She calls me and she's trying to sell her townhouse. So I go into my mode and go, what is that you're having? An inspector, we're selling the home, and the inspector said I had water ants. So I'm like, okay, there's no such thing as a water ant, so I need to know more. He says, yeah, when he did the inspection, there was a lot of humidity in the attic. And when he opened up the attic, he said I had water ants because they were attracted to the water in the attic. I'm like, makes no sense. That absolutely makes no sense. I said, do you know what ant or, what he found? He says, well, he just opened. So I said, this is making no sense what you're telling me. She's frantic because they're closing on the 30th. And here we are. This is last week on a Wednesday. So it's less than a week and a half to closing. I'm like, he told you there's this water in the attic. Do you have a leak? He says, no. There's only 2 ants that are going to be up there in that attic. Either a carpenter ant or a difficult ant, white-footed ant. That's it. Nothing else is going to be up in that attic as far as an ant. So I tell her, do me a favor, send me the report. And I look at the report, and sure enough, the guy wrote, the level of humidity in the attic is high. So when he took the reading, it came high. He says, found ants when I opened the door. He takes a picture of it, circles it. Here's all the ants. And he says, recommend you contact the pest control company. That's all he said. That's what's in the report. He did the right thing. He said, here's the ants right here. I recommend you contact. He says, no, he told me we had to spray the attic for these water ants. I don't know if that was a conversation that happened verbally or because she was like, she's working, having to sell the home. They're moving to Port St. Lucie upon the sale. They're frantic. They're losing their mind. And on top of this, she's got all this to fix. And I said, listen, she wanted me to come on the day of closing to do the service so it can be documented that it was treating. And I explained to her, I said, listen, if I come the day of the service and I do a service, there is no way we're getting control in 24 hours. Not unless I do something illegal. You're going to get to closing. They're going to walk into there, pull that open, and all those ants are going to come flying out. Then you're in trouble. I said, let's get it done now, this week, not wait till the 3rd. She was telling me what I needed to do, how I needed to do it, and when I needed to do it. I said, you're going to get yourself in trouble. You're frantic. Let me go over there. Let me take a look, diagnose what it is, treat it for you, follow up. Gives me a week to follow up. I'll follow up on Wednesday, try to ensure that ant isn't up there. So when you get to closing, there's no surprises. Because if the customer comes back and says, then you got a problem. So that's the kind of stuff that we need to see in the industry where, listen, you need to contact a professional if you're not, versus like I see a lot of guys, they'll try to diagnose a specific ant. That is one of the most difficult ants to control. It's called the difficult ant for a reason. It's a pain in the butt. So that's the kind of thing that I want and why I'm doing these series of podcasts to allow everyone either get trained, get certified, get licensed, or don't make a diagnosis of something, because a lot of the time they'll say, oh, you've got this type of droppings, and it turns out to be bats. And what happens is everybody's frantic. Everybody's in this middle of this transaction where the pressure's on. The realtor's putting pressure on the inspector, get it done, putting pressure on the homeowner. Hey, listen, you got to get this by this day because we got to close. He's a referee trying to manage everything. And, people are just whatever, doing their own thing. And then it's like, it bit them in the butt, because I could have been a salesman at that point and said, yeah, we're going to go over there and spray your attic and kill those water ants. And I said, no, let me, this is what I do. I diagnose and then I make the recommendation. So I went over there, we did the service. We had to go back the following day because I said, they're coming down somewhere. That ant can't live up there. We can't find the trail. Husband at night walking the dog says, I found what you were saying. I went back the next day, treated that trail. So I'm trying to get her clean, do my job with, get her clean so that she doesn't run into a problem at closing.
Yeah.
And she wasn't getting it. So when I talked to the husband, he was like, okay, yeah, I get it. We're just, and that's what really happens. This is like
Yeah, no, that happens a lot.
It happens in the New York Minute, down here too. So that's what I wish that we could get to where we get that understanding between the pest control professional, the real estate inspector, in this case. Now, let's talk about in maybe you can give me different scenarios of where it would be different, Florida versus Arizona versus Miami. What constitutes an inspection, a home inspection for a real estate transaction, and it can vary depending on the type of real estate transaction. So what would constitute, and why would somebody really need a home inspection?
So, I mean, a home inspection is more about knowledge. Our goal is to give you a holistic approach of the house. So, we're not an electrical contractor. We're not a plumbing contractor. We're not a pest control contractor. We take a look at the house holistically, say, okay, I seen this, I seen that, I seen this. As a whole, this is what you have going on. Talk to the electrical contractor, talk to the termite company. Our goal is to tell you who we think you should talk to after us. So I'm not a plumber, but if I go through the house and I see a lot of things wrong with the plumbing system, I'm going to tell you, hey, you need to get a plumber in here and see what it's going to cost to fix it and how bad this really is. From doing it over and over, we do get better and we do learn a lot more. But at the end of the day, one thing is we're not code inspectors. So my goal is not to look through the house and tell you everything that's out of code, because code changes every town you're in. My goal is to basically give you the information you need once you buy the house, to say, okay, they told me all this stuff was wrong. I know I need to get a contractor in here. Like, our goal is to give you as much information as possible.
Right. Okay. And when like there's you're looking at the bones, you're looking at what's visible. What a lot of companies, a lot of homeowners, let's look at the homeowner side from when they're thinking they're getting a home inspection. They're thinking, yeah, you're not a structural engineer. You're not going to determine whether that beam is load bearing or not. If it's right, you're trying to, and it's also what's visible, because a lot of you can't report on what isn't visible. So
that's the truth.
A lot of the times, the previous homeowner did something, or he knows there's something wrong, and he doesn't want you to find it. And a lot of the times that makes your life miserable, because he's behind you, breathing over your shoulder, like, what are you looking at? What are you doing? You can't go in there. You can't touch that.
Yeah, or he hides it. Puts a couch in front of it, puts up the wall. That's part of the business. And as you do more home inspections, you find out all those tips and tricks for homeowners that are a pain in the ass.
yeah. Because I mean, you can't go poking at stuff. It's only what you have access to at the time. So if you've got a hoarder and you're buying this house and there's a hoarder, he's got boxes every up to the ceiling. You have no idea what's behind that wall, because you can't move his boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't poke at the wall. Like, why did a lot of the time you have the home inspection and the homeowner is upset that, oh, nobody found this, nobody found that. I just had one in a group, which I don't know the background, so I can only comment on what was said. I can't say this actually did happen, but he couldn't. The inspector said he could not finish his inspection because the urine smell in the home, I guess the guy had so many pets and there was urine, was burning his eyes. He couldn't. I mean, there must have been a lot of ammonia in there.
Yeah.
So there was termite damage that was visible. He didn't see it. So now there's that liability portion on was it that he was incompetent, or was that he truly couldn't see it? And now the lawyers get involved.
Yeah.
And so you guys are, I mean, I look at WDO inspections and I'm like, when you guys are charging in the industry, it isn't, most of the time it isn't worth my while. And then the moment I do get the sale on the termite, if I do, the liability is so great that I'm like, I really want to walk away from a lot of this because there's already been 3 pest control companies involved in treating this house over 15 years, and I can't find any treatment documents, which means somebody sold a warranty. So from the pest control side guy, a lot of the times we don't get it that what you're inspecting for is not what we would inspect for on a WDO. When do you recommend to the client that, because a lot of the times, 90% of the time that my client calls me and says, Frank, I think I got termites. I don't do termites, but they call me first because I'm their pest control guy. And they say, I think I got termites. I just bought this house. I said, did you do a termite inspection? No. At what point do you actually, as an inspector, home inspector, where you don't do termite or you don't do WDO or you're not in that field yet, at what point do you tell the client, I recommend you get a termite inspection? So, what would be the indicator on your part that would trigger that conversation with the client?
So, I mean, there's 2 things there. So it's, there's good inspectors and there's bad inspectors.
Right.
A bad inspector is basically the guy that's not my job. So a bad inspector is going to walk through the house and say, they're going to see mold, but they're not going to tell you it's mold because that's not part of the home inspection. They're going to see termites. They're not going to tell you anything because that's not part of the termite. That's not part of the home inspection. But a good inspector or a good inspection company is going to document everything they see. So if I'm going through the house and I see bugs or termites or whatever, I'm going to document it. I might not say termites. I might say, bugs observed in the basement, recommend talking to a pest control company. For me, anything I see goes in the report. So if I see damage, it's in the report. If I see live insects, it's in the report. Again, if I don't know what they are, I might not say what they are, but I'm putting everything in that report because, like you said, I want the liability off me.
Right.
I'd rather not say, I want my customers to be happy. So when my customer calls me back and says, hey, you didn't tell me about this, I don't want my excuse to be like, well, that wasn't my job. I seen it, but it's just not my job to tell you that. I want to say, hey, I put it in the report. You just didn't understand what I was saying, or you just didn't read it.
Right. Yeah. So because that's a lot of what I mean. I remember I bought several properties, and I've had one good inspection company that for my last transaction, but they're usually recommended by the realtor. The realtor doesn't say, we got an inspection company. I booked the appointment for you. They're going to go out. It's going to cost you this much. They're sending you the documents. You need to sign it with them, but they're the ones making the recommendation. With the last realty, I had a purchase 14 years ago. They made the recommendation. Unfortunately, that guy knew less about home inspection, but he was a good talker. So the whole issue with the box needs to get replaced. Your wiring. It's an antiquated box. You're going to need a new panel eventually. He totally missed the fact that there was termite damage. Didn't inspect any of the equipment. Didn't inspect the water heater. Didn't get temperature. Didn't inspect the AC. Didn't look at it. He just basically walked through the house and wrote in the report that there was nothing wrong except a stain in the ceiling that he saw. And we already knew there was a water leak because the owner told me she just saw the water leak. She was open about it. She got it fixed too, on her before we closed. But he basically told me nothing. And I was like so pissed. I'm like, I know enough about construction. I didn't need a home inspector, but they said, go ahead and get it. I said, all right, I'll get the home inspector. But it was total garbage. I mean, I was like, he didn't even stick his head in the attic.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was the worst home inspector I had ever seen. The guy was a good salesman, terrible home inspector.
Yeah, well, agents like that. He makes the process easy. If he goes through the whole process and says everything's good, gives you the thumbs up, now the agent gets to close. Because remember, they don't get paid until they close.
Yeah.
So they want the deal to close. With us, I want to say I'm more about my customer. Right. I care less about the agent. I do love a lot of agents, but at the same time, they know my job is to do my job.
Right.
If the agent is sitting there telling me, well, don't put that in the report, or, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, we're not going to work for them too often because, at the end of the day, my customer is more important than them.
Well, not to mention that if you've got an agent that tells you don't put something in the report when it's your job, and then something goes wrong, you're going to get thrown under the bus because he's going to say, I never told him.
That's exactly what happens. And the same thing what you were talking about earlier. A lot of times I find that we put stuff in the report, this is wrong, that's wrong, do this, or, contact the pest control company, and they go to the agent first. And the agent will say, oh, I just had a guy do that and he did this. And they'll give them bad information and they'll take that as what we were saying. So, same situation that you were talking about where we tell a client, hey, there's termites in your attic, talk to a pest control company, and the agent turns around, oh, I just had a guy, he sprayed it for $100 and, they were good. He gave us a certificate and they closed, and the agent's the one telling them the bad information when we're telling you, hey, go talk to the pest control company. Because at the end of the day, I want to say 90% of home inspectors are not pest control companies. We don't know about treatment. I don't know the newest procedures when you treat stuff. You got baiting systems, all of that stuff. That's your game. We don't know that. I'm just going to sit there and say, hey, talk to them.
Yeah, because with this situation, she just wanted me to document that I did something. And I'm like, that's disingenuous because I'm the buyer. I'm going to run into a $350, $400 bill to solve this problem. It's not going to be big. But most of the time, the owner of the home selling the home says, I don't want to turn my head in your guy treating nothing. I ain't paying for it. So it's really, you got to know so that and say, okay, yeah, it's going to cost me $1,500, $3,000 when we close to fix this problem if we want to get into the deal. And with the market the way it is, most people are going to yeah, I know there's 9, but at least that saying we're going to have to spend X right after closing to get these problems fixed. And I think as a homeowner, I would just want to know, what I'm walking into, because a lot of the time, what I know from right now is you're going to be house poor and cash poor when you're done closing. Your bank account is going to be wiped out. If anything has to get fixed, it's going to have to go on credit cards because you won't have any equity in that home right now. The market is overvalued in Florida.
I know.
You're not going to be able to get an equity line. You're going to be putting everything on a card, or you better have another 15 grand, 20, 30 grand laying in the bank to get these things done, or you're just going to live with them until you can't. That's just a reality. $50,000 to close on a house right now is chump change in Florida. You need 50 grand in the bank to just close on a low end. This is like lower middle class. This is not middle class or upper middle class. Oh, this is lower middle class neighborhoods. 450,000, 500 grand, easy. Middle class,
no, I see that.
Middle class, 750, easy.
Yeah.
Upper middle class, you're already at $1 million, easy. So people are going to be house poor right now buying. They don't know what they're getting. They're first time home buyers. They have no idea what it's like to take care of an actual home, of all the stuff you have to do. And then you kind of dang, nobody told me. The real estate guy didn't tell me, and I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't going to have the money to do all this, and we could have done something else or downgraded or bought something, I went from wanting a house with 6,000 to 8,000 square feet lot with enough parking to park 4 vehicles to settling for a townhome.
Gotcha.
That gave me 3 vehicles in a garage because we couldn't find it. It wasn't there. The inventory wasn't there.
Yeah, that's same here in New York.
On top of that, you're like, oh yeah, we okay, this is the price you want? Okay, I qualify, no problem. No. You don't understand. I want 25 grand, 30 grand in cash on top of that. Plus a 10%, down on the home. You're like, 100, you're in 85 grand like that before you know it on a $400,000 house to buy.
Yep, it's crazy.
People, I got customers. Oh, we want to buy. I said, you're gonna wait 2 years. Right now, this is ridiculous. I got banks wanting 10% down for no reason other than they're overvalued.
Yeah, well, it's that, and that for the home inspector changed the industry because, a couple years ago, we would do the home inspection. They would take that report. They would negotiate. They would say, hey, I want to get this fixed. I want to get that fixed. That, it was a good tool where the last year or two, it was more like, okay, now you know what's wrong, but we're not negotiating or fixing anything. We're not bringing the price down. So again, a lot of people, they got the home inspection because they were told to get it, but they never even looked at it because they were told it's as is or you can't negotiate. So they didn't even read line by line to say, okay, I need to fix that. They move in, and guess what? Now they're like, oh my God, I didn't know the house had all this stuff wrong with it.
Right. Yeah, and that's because at the end of the day, it's like we got to move somewhere, and we can't find any place to move, and then people get desperate. They start getting frustrated after 3 months of this, losing 10, 13 deals like I did. I was like, okay, not for me, because there ain't no deal I got to have. But I was on a deadline. I said by X date, end of October, we got to have something. I started in June, July.
Yeah.
And we're 3-4 months in, and every deal falls through because somebody outbids me on it. Where I said, okay, fine. That's what you want for it. Great. Then they would come back and say, no, we want another 15. All right, I can do 15. Come back. No, now we want 20. I mean, that's how it was. It was, you got to be crapping me, man.
Yeah, no, trust me. I feel sometimes that I'm more of a psychologist consultant to some of my clients because they call us up with that problem. Like, hey, they want to raise the high, they want us to come up 15 grand or 20 grand. What do you think I should do? How should we do this? And, normally we're like, hey, go talk to the real estate agent. And they're like, well, we don't trust the agent. The agent just wants their money. So they come to us, and, I don't want to get involved in that because I don't want that liability.
Yeah, because, how often, and it happens, it just doesn't happen that often. A lot of the issues that people are all bent out of shape are things that happen all the time, but some of these are just one time, like, getting sued by on a big transaction. We're talking, you're inspecting a multi-million-dollar home or whatever. And multi-million-dollar home is nothing these days. It's like, oh, I live in a multi-million-dollar home. That was great when it was 1985. Today, $1 million home is nothing. What is the liability if you say or something and then that deal falls through because of something you said that probably isn't on the report, or it should have been, and now you have the seller's agent wanting to sue you, and the owner wants to sue you because that deal fell through because.
Yeah, no, it happens. And I have that discussion with my inspectors often. Like, yo, you can't say that, or, because an agent will call me up and say, hey, they were talking and he said this. And sometimes my inspectors are right. Sometimes my inspectors are wrong, but we do have that conversation quite often. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have said that, or maybe we should word it differently. Because like you said, we might talk about something small to us, but it kills $1 million deal because the person that's listening wasn't really understanding what we were saying.
Right. Yeah, just like this lady. She's telling me I got water ants in the attic, and he told me I needed to spray the attic, and it's like, no, he never said that. It's this is what's in the report. I said she was all frantic, and I'm like, but it happens all the time. It's just like, for me,
all the time.
We hear it all the time. The inspector told me I needed to spray the attic. Like, we don't spray attics. It's like not a thing we like to do. I had one guy that, a termite guy that I referred to, which is another thing that pisses me off. And I referred him, and he goes and tells that, tell Frank to do a Termidor application, 4 times a year on the outside to deal with the, these carpenter ants. What we get pissed off about is people telling the homeowner or something how to perform a procedure when it isn't their expertise and it isn't their custom. When somebody comes and tells you, you need to, like some agents will go, some inspectors, no, he needs to, treat like this or treat like that, giving an actual advice on something that they're not licensed. This is where the pest control guys get bent out of shit. And then the pest control guy goes in and says, yeah, we got to do it. And, it's going to be $3,000. And then the real estate agent is all pissed because now the client has a home inspection, a termite inspection, and it's going to be $3,000. And that was discussed, but everybody wants, I know what everybody would want in this world. Let's just have a clean report that nothing's ever wrong. And, when you tell somebody their attic has termite, and what are the chances of that roof, or, first, is a roof going to cave in? I just had this guy, I had one guy, which is my client, he was all frantic. I said, listen, you need to talk to a termite guy. I'm not a termite guy. What I found there wasn't termite. It wasn't termite frass. I said, if you're worried about it, this house was built in the 20s. Wooden structure. I said, I'm not taking a chance with this house. I'm going to recommend you tent it. Tell the termite guy, here's my termite guy that I use. You talk to him. But personally, I would never take on that house to do a spot treatment. Not on that house.
Well, so what I've noticed is every termite company has a different way of treating.
Right.
So, again, we'll say, hey, as a home inspector on Long Island, I'm not, termites are in every house. It's just a matter of if I found them today or if I see anything. But at the end of the day, if you ripped off every wall, I'm pretty sure 99% of the houses have termites. So, how you want to treat it as a home inspector, my concern is how much damage did I see? Right. If I go in the basement and I see termite tubes, okay. But if I'm able to take my screwdriver and put it through the sill or put it through the joist, to me, that's what I'm concerned about. They were there for a long time, and now the damage is significant where it's going to take a lot to fix it. Because all the termite companies, all they do is treat or, monitor. So they'll kill the termites, but we're more worried about, hey, once the termites are dead, are you going to fall through that floor because they ate the whole floor joist? So that's kind of where I take it, where I'm like, all right, I know you have termites, but let's see how much damage we could see visually, because if we could see it visually, imagine what's behind the wall.
Right. And as a termite, as a home inspector, you get underneath there, you get underneath that crawl space or that basement, in the case, in Long Island, you would have a basement, and you do see it. Would you actually put a screwdriver through it and check it, or just?
I do.
That's something you do.
I mean, we have a screwdriver and prongs and a couple of different things, and I'll hit it, because like I said, I want to see if it sounds hollow. Again, that's me, because I like to, again, I'm more concerned about my clients, and it's very easy for me to say, hey, you need to call a termite company and treat it. But again, that's that. Right. I'm more worried about when they get it treated, and now the contractor comes in and says, all your walls are eaten up, and it's going to be an extra $50,000.
and I know people in this industry who that's what they do, is they deal with that after the fact, and then they see $100,000 of damage, and then you get into litigation, and then it's 3 companies were there, 3 companies treated, and then there was all this damage, or nobody treated, which is the worst case. That's what gets a lot of these people, these companies, doing termite warranties, but never actually treating or really inspecting for the damage. At what point do you tell the client? Have you ever had a case where you needed to tell the client, I think you need to talk to a structural engineer before you move forward?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've had a couple where it's just so bad. Like I said, I'll touch my screwdriver on it and it'll go right through it, or you'll just touch it and the whole thing will be dust. I've had quite a few where I'm like, hey, listen, before you talk to anybody, talk to, a contractor, a structural engineer to see what the cost to fix it's going to be, because again, I pretty much know the treatment is going to be $1,000 to $3,000.
Right.
Depending on how, if they want to spot treat something small, that's different. But the baiting system or whatever is usually between 1,000 and 3,000. So even though that's expensive, it's not too expensive when you look at the cost of the home.
Right.
So for me, same thing with like a water heater. A water heater is going to cost 1,000 to $2,000. Yeah, your water heater's old, it's shot, but is it the end of the world? Not really. But if the structural damage is there, that could be the end of the world.
Right. Yeah, that's the proverbial elephant. What do you call that? What is that movie?
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
There's a white elephant, or I forgot which one it was now. Yeah, I think it was a white elephant. But yeah, I mean that's what happens, man. Um, what do you think the biggest and the best advice that you could give to a homeowner on how do they actually select a good home inspector? I mean, what would classify? I mean, is it star reviews? I mean, what would you say is says, okay, I need to hire a home inspector. How do I know this is a competent home inspector?
All right. So first, I would say, reviews and recommendations are always the best. If most people, if they have bad service, the first thing they do is they leave a bad review.
Right.
So
Especially
if
on
you have,
transaction, yeah.
yeah, most people don't say, oh, the service was great, let me go leave a good review. They go, the service was bad, let me leave a bad review.
Right.
So if the company has a lot of good reviews, that says they're doing something right. I like to say, friends and family, somebody that's had a home inspection by this company, they'll usually be honest with you. They're like, oh, this guy was great. They did everything. Or they're like, no, that guy missed that guy missed that. So I would go with that. And just the education and training aspect, what company's been around, who's actually still continuing to learn. And I tell everybody when you call or you talk to them, what is your first impression? If you think that they're an asshole, they probably are. Like I know a lot of home inspectors that are pushy, they're arrogant, they don't know how to talk to people because they think in their mind they're the best.
Right.
They don't do good jobs for the right, for certain people because they're too arrogant. So I like my customers to like us.
Right. No, in the case of you got up, you're looking for this competent home inspector. Let me ask you this: how good are your trade associations? Because I know that some of them are like terrible. A lot of them have been bought out. There's been a lot of reconciliation in that industry of associations being bought. And I think the only independent one I think is now InterNACHI, which is pretty decent, and from what I hear. How important is that in your case?
So
the association.
I love Nachi. I love InterNACHI. But in general, I would say the trade association is not that important. Only because it's what you get, what you put in is what you get out. Nachi has the best training. They have, continuing ed. They offer a lot of free stuff, but you could also be a member and not take advantage of any of that.
Right.
So, like in New York, trade associations aren't big. There's a couple. There's ASHI, Nachi, Mahi. Being part of them keeps you involved in the industry, but it has no bearing on whether you're a good home inspector or whether you get any business from it.
Right.
So, like I said, I'm a Nachi member. I do a lot with Nachi. We host the Nachi Long Island Association here. We do a lot of training with Nachi. We get a lot out of it. But I know other guys that just sign up and pay the money. They got their Nachi certificate, and that's it. They get nothing from it.
Right. And you also have a training academy for inspectors?
I do. So we have a training academy for home inspectors. We have a real estate school. We have a couple different schools that run out of the same building, but we do. I would say the home inspection side of it, we're probably the biggest in New York.
Got it. And what does it take for, how long is that course for somebody in New York to say, I want to be a home inspector?
So the course is 140 hours. It's 25 hours a mod, so it's 4 mods, 25, 25, so it equals 100. That's the in class. And then it's 40 hours of doing actual inspections, which they call mock inspections. So you're
Got it.
supposed to do like 10 mock inspections at 4 hours a clip.
Got it. Okay. All right. So it's 140 hours of training. Yeah, it's quite a bit for getting started. And then you can just apply for your license at that point and become a licensed home inspector.
Yeah, so that's the difference. So once you apply, you get your license. Now you're a licensed home inspector. You could basically open up shop the next day and call yourself a home inspector and go out and do work, or you come work for another company and work for them.
Got it. Cool. All right, bro. How do people get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? We are the inspection boys.
Okay.
So all they have to do is type in Google the inspection boys. All the contact forms come right back to me. Or they could just, yeah, that's the best way. Google's the inspection boys.
The inspection boys. Got it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're in New York, because I'm thinking of Jose Solano. He's the Bug Boys up in Elizabeth, in Jersey. So that would be something neat. The bug.
Yeah, we have one new location opening in Jersey and another one on the way. So we will be in Jersey soon. So, that would be a good connection right there. Again, we are a franchise. We are selling locations. So anybody that's interested that wants to do home inspections, they could always contact us too.
Let me ask you this: what value for that? We got into that subject, the reason is most people have a thing against franchises, because I could do better myself because I'm a better technician, but the technical work is in a business is really not it. It's how you understand how to run a business. What does the franchise offer a guy who says, you know what, I don't want to do all of this myself? What is the value of that franchise to them?
Well, the thing with the franchise is, like you said, being a technician and running a business are two different things. You could be the best home inspector, the best pest control technician, and stink at running a business because there's marketing, there's expenses, there's a lot of other stuff involved in running a business. So I love it. Like, I teach the school. We don't sell franchise locations in New York and Long Island where I teach because I have my location here. I have so many students that argue with me, oh, a franchise is, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Why would I give them a cut? Why would I do this? Why would I do that? But ironically, the thing is, 2 years later, all of those people are out of business, and the people that buy the franchises are still in business. There's a lot of red tape. When you run a business, you make mistakes. The goal of the franchise is to cut those mistakes down and save you money. So you might pay me money up front, but you're not going to advertise with the wrong person. You're not going to make the mistakes we already made and paid to make them. So, we're shortening the time span. If it takes, 4 years to have your business running to where you want it to be, we want to cut it down to 2 where you're there. That's the goal. And, it's just somebody that's going to hold you accountable and, basically take, the learning curve away.
Right. Yeah, this is where I was trying to do. It's just Florida was so difficult for us because of all the pest control laws that unless you're a certified operator, the problem is the certified operator thinks, well, I already know more than you. I already done this for 25 years. You've never operated a business. Again, the same thing. All the hundreds of thousands of dollars I spent to make the mistakes. And then I tell a lot of this to people, and they still don't listen. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go do it my way. And then they're still doing 150K a year, 2 to 3 years later, running in a truck because I know what it took to get to this place, and how to get you going very quickly to where you don't waste a lot of time. So yeah, I see it, and I still get the argument, the pushback from most people thinking they're smart business people, but they've never actually operated a business in their life. They've just been good techs, and they think that is everything, and that's the biggest misconception in people. But I like the honestly, I like the franchise concept the best. I know a couple of guys who follow me that I follow that do own franchise. They own actually three of them. They own a pest control franchise, they own a wildlife franchise, and they own a electric dog fence franchise. Their ROI is that, I mean, whatever they paid in the fee, they said they got it back within less than a year or sooner because of the value. There is value. I know one of the biggest in New York, upstate New York. He is the biggest franchisee for Pest. Started with them, I think, 30 years ago or something like that. So there's an enormous value in that if, the person understands the business. It's just that my conversation, usually 99% of the time that I have a conversation with a tech that wants to become an owner, he doesn't understand the pest control business.
Well, that's what it is. So when you're buying a franchise, you're buying a system. So when I have a conversation with somebody that's already telling me that they want to make their own system, they want to change the game, they want to do this, they want to do that, they might be the next best home inspection company, but they're not going to be an Inspection Boys franchise, because I don't want somebody that wants to change the game, change the system. I want somebody that's going to follow the system, do what we do that's successful, and then we could change it later on or add to it. But people come in and they're like, well, I don't want to do that because I don't think it's going to work. You're not a good franchisee then, because we know it works.
Right. Once you've done it 3, 4, 5 times and you've already done it 20 times, it works. It's just, again, they want to be entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And the franchisee is really a good manager that says, I own it, but technically I'm being a good manager. I'm not being the next marketing guru.
Yeah. Well, again, like us, we know that the industry is always changing and evolving. We don't tell them not to try new things,
right,
but do what we told you first. Right. Don't come in and try something new before you did everything we told you.
Yeah, you're reinventing the wheel, and then a year later you're saying, "Oh, your system doesn't work." Because what they thought they were buying. Here's what a lot of guys think they're buying when they call me. Because I was making a franchise offer years ago. I was just too early in that prospect. I needed some more. I needed a good model that was actually proven versus and the marketing model and this and again, a lot of the guys, but I don't need to learn pest control. I says, I'm not here to teach you pest control. I'm here to teach you our system, how we do what we do, and then build the marketing system, the management system, the support systems. When you do need to hire, how many people have you hired? The biggest complaint you get is that, oh, I can't hire anybody and I don't know how to hire, and I can't deal with it, and I don't have the time, and it's like, that's where we come in, where I already understand that part. I've already done that. I've already done that. I know how to do it. It's about, are you going to get me the sales? I said, no, because you still have to invest in marketing. And they think, oh, I'm just going to become your friend. All the sales are good, so I don't have to do sales because I suck at sales. Now, that could be done, but I'm going to take a huge chunk because sales is the hardest work there is. If you don't want to do sales, and we know the marketing works and which marketing works, which marketing hasn't worked, and we're developing those things, then you're going to say, well, I'm just going to do, I got guys that thought, how do I do what you're doing? Because you're getting leads all over the country. Dang it, bro, that's been 8 years of research and development screwing it up. Very expensive to do. Like, how do you get this? How do you get Google? Because they Google, like they'll Google natural pest control, and I come up in their state before they do.
Yeah.
But that was by design for 8 years, building up my national reach and my global reach to get a brand recognition where people Google something and they say, yeah, we're ranking on it. So when I decide to put a city page, that city page is going to rank. When I decide to put a local franchise in a city, Google is going to give you because there's domain authority.
Yeah, exactly.
That nobody's that took a lot of work. Like, I think we're somewhere around 3,000 pages on our site.
No, I believe it. I mean, we're there. I mean, we're not there, but we're working on, we've been working on the site since 2017.
Right. Yeah, I started back in 2013, but that's been my build the content, build the backbone of that, so that when Google recognizes it, then we can rank very, very quickly. Which is something you can't buy. You couldn't buy it for $1,000 a month. What I do right now, you couldn't buy it.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's the reason I'm having this conversation, is because I went down that path, but I was too soon. I'm still thinking of doing it. But again, it does, to your point, that you can't have a guy that says, oh, I just want to look, I have money and I want to buy a proven system that works, that's already a concept, proven concept, and I just want to be able to manage it. I don't want to have to do all the marketing. I don't want to build flyers. He's going to come up to me, look at the flyer I built. That's crap. Let me have our designers design it, So building that whole support system so that you can do 2 things instead of 15 that you suck at, and people don't get it, but that's the whole concept of why it's better. But a lot of these guys are so headstrong and independent that,
like I said, 90% of them go out of business in a year or 2 anyway.
Yeah, or they don't make any money, and then they're crying about it, because I hear it all the time. I mean, it's like, I get the guys that call me, I'm frustrated, and I can't get past 150. I can't tell you how to do 1 million, but I can tell you how to get 2 to 3 guys and live comfortably, so you're not, I'm putting in, like right now, some ridiculous hours, like 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's what I'm putting in. And I'm going out and seeing maybe 2 customers a day that I have to handle. So that was my goal, is I don't want to have to, so now now it's the accelerated process of duplicating that a lot faster.
Exactly.
And that's where we're at. But Miami's a tough market, right? I don't know. You have any franchises in Miami?
Do I have what?
Any franchisees in Miami?
Yeah, we are in Dade County, so right above Miami. Yep.
Have you compared the analytics on that franchise compared to the rest of the market and what that's like, or do you have any insight?
They're about 10 months open, so we haven't yet, but we will.
Because I'd be interested. Miami is a totally different market that people just don't get, and unless you know the culture and you understand it, it's nothing. Like, people talk, oh, New York is a big market. I said, yeah, but it's a melting pot. Miami's not a melting pot.
Yeah.
Miami is 65% Hispanic. It's like I was having this discussion with a marketing guy just so people can understand. And he says, here's the funny part is 80% of my calls are in Spanish. We only close 20% of that.
Wow.
However, the 20% of our English clients, we close 80% of that.
Wow. That's crazy.
Because they understand the value of what we do versus the company who just decided he's going to call the first guy and start price shopping, because that's what Hispanics do. They price shop. They don't even negotiate. They're like, no, it's too expensive. Buy it. But
they don't even know what they're getting. They're just worried about the price.
So analyzing my analytics, I understand. Yes, I can't ignore that market, because it actually 30% of our revenue comes from that market, and the second generation and first generation. But we got to focus more on the English. Problem is, everybody's focusing on the same thing.
Yeah.
So that all my competitors, the big top 10 on the PCT 100, are all here. At least 6 of them are in my market. So when you have 6 national competitors plus 5 or 6 regional competitors, the trying to compete it on like you really on Google AdWords, you got to have the budget. Yeah,
you're gonna spend it.
$2,000 a month on Google AdWords isn't gonna buy you crap in Miami. It isn't. you need that 5,000 to 6,000 a month in Google AdWords to be and do termite and do high-end jobs, because if you're doing road jobs and you're not doing high-level jobs that are going to pay at $25 a click, forget about it.
No, I got you. That's crazy.
It's nuts. So it's very tough market. Like look, my competitors in my field, they know who they are. They've been at it since the mid-'80s and early '90s, and they still haven't been able to grow past 3 to 4 guys. And they're my major competitors. And I'm at, we're 2 now, and I'm going to be doing 3 next year. It's extremely hard. It isn't to take anything away from them. It's just that it's so hard in South Florida, unless you do a lot of the things that you can't stop. And then you can grow. That's just a reality of a lot of the us guys that care about the client.
Yeah, it's hard.
We have a hard time stomaching a lot of that. But brother, man, anything you want to add? Anything you want to talk about that I didn't ask you? Like, dang, I wish you would have asked me that. Of course, you're going to remember when I hang up.
Yeah, when you hang up, I will. No, I mean, like I said, it's been a pleasure. Just remember, same thing with the term. When somebody's trying to hire somebody to do a service, go with your gut. Pick somebody you trust, and that's it.
All right, man. I wish you all the success in the world. Keep that cash flow going.
You too. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Bye.